The Oklahoma City Thunder beat the Milwaukee Bucks down to a pulp, if you can even call them the Milwaukee Bucks, after the lineups we saw today. SGA had 30 by halftime. The Thunder made a trade, and are they going to make more? Coming up on today's show.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and beat writer for Thunder on SI, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LO Thunderpod. On today's show, brought to you by FanDuel at Super Bowl 59 here. There's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets by downloading the app and heading to FanDuel.com to get started. I'm joined by Brandon Rahbar at Brandon Rahbar on Twitter, DailyThunder.com, 1077 The Franchise. Brandon, the Thunder played the Bucks in a semi-rematch of the NBA Cup. Only the fact of the matter is the Bucks played nobody in this game, so it took some of the luster out of this game. But how are you doing today?
I am doing well tonight. Yeah, it was the kind of sort of Bucks, the kind of rematch. Look, obviously without Giannis, Dame, Lopez, Middleton, Bobby Portis Jr., they didn't have their guys. But the Thunder, as Shai said in the postgame, took care of business.
That's all you got to do, is taking care of business if you're Oklahoma City, and they did so with this win. Speaking of Shai, he took care of business early and often. I mean, he scored 30 points by halftime of this contest. And I think that there's a couple things here. Number one, let's just say Shai's stat line, 34 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds in 22 minutes of work. How can it get better than that? Well, guess what? He shot 79% from the floor and 66% from 3. This is 2K numbers from SGA, and he did it in real life against the Milwaukee Bucks. He was a plus 34 from scoring 34 points in that first half, and only played a smattering, if you will, in the third quarter. I thought that SGA completely dominated, and I think that SGA just showed you that if you do not have a real trusted rim protector, you just can't stop him, because Andre Jackson Jr. is a excellent Shai defender. And nobody shuts Shai down, and Andre doesn't either. But in terms of making life difficult on Shai, Andre is one of the best players in the league at doing that. But he's always been helped out by, he has that backline support. In this game, he did not have that backline support. So he still did his job. But like once Shai inevitably breaks that down and there's no one there to stop him at the rim, it's just curtains for Milwaukee, and he can just name his score. So I think as you talk about playoff matchups, you talk about who is better than the Thunder, or who are the Thunder better than, or how many games the series will go. The most important thing that the other team has to identify is who is their trusted rim protector and how often can he be on the court, because Shai will be on the court in the playoffs all but 8 minutes. And if you don't have a rim protector for all of those minutes, he's going to make your life just absurdly difficult.
Yeah, it was a layup line for Shai tonight. He was asked about that, specifically about getting to the rim. And he said, look, I'm just going to take what the defense gave him. And tonight, the defense gave him that rim. He could have scored 50 for the third time in less than 2 weeks tonight. Honestly, had he played a full slate of minutes, like 35, 36 minutes tonight, he would have got to 50. 34 points in 22 minutes. That's just a silly stat line, quite honestly, especially when you look at the efficiency. With all the Twitter and social media talk about being a free throw merchant, which that's a whole other thing. My man only shot 3 free throws tonight and still ended up with 34 points in 22 minutes. It's because he went from the field 15 of 19 and then 2 of 3 from 3. Shai was he was a plus 34 in 22 minutes. Like I said, could have scored 50 had he wanted to. He checked out with over 6 minutes left in the third quarter and never saw the floor again because the Thunder up by over 40 points.
Yeah, this is a game where the Thunder never trailed, and they got up by 44 points at one point. The garbage time ends up making the score look closer than it really was, and that's saying a lot because they finished the night winning 125-96 over Milwaukee, but it wasn't even that close for Oklahoma City. They just ran away with this game. They dominate the glass 55-37 on the rebound count. They actually did have more turnovers than Milwaukee, but again, garbage time factors in 17-14 on the turnover battle. And then the Thunder shot 51% from the floor, 39% from three, and 87% from the charity stripe, including that fourth quarter with Adam Flagler's minutes. The Bucks shot 37% from the floor, 33% from three, and 62% at the free throw line. Points in the paint, the Thunder dominate. Second chance points, the Thunder dominate, and fast break points, the Thunder were able to oust the Bucks by a couple. So, Brandon, there's a lot of different directions we can go. First and foremost, you and your buddies at Media Row had your little chuckles at Adam Flagler, friend of the pod. People forget. I'm not going to stand for it. We've never in the history of the league genuinely cared about what happens during garbage time. Does he take a lot of shots? There's no defending that. He takes a lot of shots, and he's a willing shooter. He is quick to shoot. He is a confident shooter. But I think it is unfair to speaking now to social media to grade Adam Flagler on these fourth quarter minutes, where one, the shots are still coming in the same ways that the Thunder's offense wants them to. It's just that he's the one shooting them and not Shai, and they're not going in at the same rate, and it looks messier. But it's fundamentally the same stuff. And number two, clearly you want to see more of these shots going. No one wants to shoot 9% from the floor. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to be on a streak and a slump as bad as Adam Flagler is on right now. But it's 12 minutes in a blowout game. He is way more talented than this. That there's a reason why he's on a two-way contract, because he is supremely talented. And I just think that people get a little out of hand with these shots, because guess what? Somebody's going to shoot them. Like, somebody's going to shoot these fourth quarter shots. It just so happens to be Adam Flagler, and he clanked a lot of them, but I think that it's so overblown. I mean, Mark got asked about it post game. Who cares, truly? And he is way better than this. So it's just, I just kind of do feel bad for him, of like, this is going to be his reputation, even though if you would spend any amount of time watching the OKC Blue, you would see just how good he really is. But Brandon, Usman Jang, what a night. The Us was loose tonight, Brandon. 21 points from him, 5 assists, 8 rebounds, 1 steal. He had a dunk in transition. He had a dunk going through the lane over contacts. He had a sidestep 3, and you can just rat-a-tat-tat these buckets from Us whenever. That's been a missing part of his game, where he has not played with offensive force. He has not had memorable moments on the offensive end. The defense has always been NBA caliber, but the offense is lagged behind, and tonight he kind of put it together.
Yeah, I thought Us was great tonight. And it wasn't just because, the Bucks garbage time. He scored most of his points while, the Bucks were still playing. Obviously, they weren't playing their guys, but the guys that they had in the game. He played real minutes tonight. From the Bucks' perspective, I'm trying to be kind here. Obviously, the Bucks weren't playing great players, but Us did play real minutes against the guys they did play. And he ended up with 21 points, 1 off from his career high. And it was the way that he got it to me. Like Isaiah Joe was asked about it post-game, and he thought that Us has been a lot more aggressive offensively lately, this season in particular. And I think we can all see that. He's kind of put some games together. 21 points, 9 of 13 from the field. That included 4 dunks, a putback dunk, a couple aggressive drives. He was 3 of 5 from 3, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal. I just thought that Us had a really nice game overall tonight. And, if anything, I was bummed out because he was 1 off from his career high of 22. And he had that 21 with 8 minutes to go, 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And he only took a couple more shots, which, credit to him. He played within the flow of the game. He was passing the ball around. He wasn't taking bad shots. He wasn't trying to. I was kind of hoping, we saw Aaron Wiggins 40-piece last game. I was hoping we'd get an Usman Jang 30-piece tonight. I think the crowd would have been really into it. Shout out, by the way, to the OKC crowd, Loud City. There's been a lot of blowouts in OKC this season. and that crowd is staying, and they're cheering for these guys that are playing in the fourth quarter. And Adam Flagler, going back to him, by the way, I was not chuckling at Adam Flagler. I won't name any names.
Yeah, we won't name the names, but they know who they are. They listen to the show and they know who they are. I'll never forgive you guys.
But the crowd was like really rooting for Flagler to hit a shot. When he hit one, they went berserk. Like you would think it was like, a meaningful basket, in a close game, because they were just happy for him. So shout out to the Thunder fans as well.
Yeah, shout out to them. J. Will played really well. Isaiah Joe is playing really well. 5 for 8 again from 3, just lighting the Nets on fire from beyond the arc. Isaiah Hartenstein got 12 rebounds in this game. Lou Dort was 2 for 2. Really, he went 4 for 4 overall. He was perfect for scoring 12 points in his limited action, 20 minutes. And to Mark's point post game, these games, like why they still matter and why I wouldn't blame you for turning the game off at halftime. You're well within your right to do that. It doesn't make you a fake fan or whatever, but the games do matter because of what a benefit it is and a luxury it is that in the midst of this pre-All-Star break schedule, or if you look at where they're at today and where they need to get to, which is next Thursday, they have so many games crammed in that to have a night like this where you only play Shai 22 minutes, you only play Lou 20 minutes, you only play Kenny Hustle 21 minutes, and he had to play some garbage time. You only play Hartenstein 18 minutes. And like to have a game like this for as limited of bodies as you have and to be able to get a blowout win all comes together and makes this a really good night for the Thunder. I did ask Isaiah Joe after the game if he wants to be in the 3-point contest, and he does. He's waiting on the phone call from Adam Silver. So maybe Adam will pick up the phone and get a call to Isaiah Joe. We'll see if that happens. But coming up, we do have a Thunder trade. Are they going to make more? We'll talk about that coming up. But first, I want to tell you right now about our good friends over at BetterHelp. Check them out today at BetterHelp because this show is brought to you by BetterHelp. And what are some of your green flags that you look for? For me, green flag, communication. Obviously, I talk for a living. Talking is very important. Communicating very important. But how often are you always hearing the negatives, the red flags, and what you should be avoiding in people? Like, oh, that guy's not so trustworthy. That guy laughs at Adam Flagler. That's a red flag. So oftentimes we can get caught up in the red flags of people, but BetterHelp can help you see the green flags in yourself, whether you're dating or married or single or looking to build a friendship. You can work on yourself, find your green flags, find their green flags, stop over concerning yourself with the negative, and allow therapy to help you form relationships that love you back. Therapy helps you develop healthy boundaries and improves your communication skills. It empowers you to set a clear expectation and express yourself in relationships. Therapy provides tools for managing conflicts in ways that strengthen your connections rather than breaking them down. BetterHelp makes it easy by offering online therapy with over 30,000 licensed therapists to choose from. And if you need to switch therapists, you can do so at no extra charge. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day, talking Thunder trade, talking Thunder trade deadline, talking Thunder beating Bucks, talking Luka Doncic still in hopes of clinging on to more of that SEO for Luka. Brandon, first of all, we had a trade break live on the OKC Dream Team podcast where the Thunder have shipped out the old 2029 second round pick in return for the old 2030 second round pick. A second round pick for second round pick swap, no extra compensation to either side. They got together and the Suns 2029 pick is going to the Thunder. The Suns 2029 pick is going to Charlotte. The Denver 2030 pick is going to the Thunder. That's it. That's the whole trade. And let's just start with how we think the trade conversation went down. Brandon, in my universe, and the good thing is Sam Presti will never confirm it or deny this, so I can just act like it's true. In my universe, Sam Presti calls up Charlotte, and the phone's ringing, and he knows what he's going to try to get from the Hornets. But then he thinks to himself, why not have a little fun? Why not have a little fun with old Jeff Peterson? And when Jeff Eberle answers the phone, he pulls up Brad Townsend's article that lays out the scripted conversation from Rob Pelinka and Nico Harrison. And for those of you that don't know, Nico Harrison, whenever he called Rob Pelinka, he threw out there, would it be crazy if I trade you Luka Doncic? And Rob Pelinka was obviously taken aback by this. And so what if Sam Presti calls up old Jeff and says, Jeff, would it be crazy if we made a deal right now? And Jeff's all waiting on the other line. Oh yeah. Let's do this. Let's do this. It's happening again. Lightning striking twice. So is the superstar coming over to Charlotte. And then he goes, would it be crazy if we swapped second round picks in the year of our Lord 2029 and 2030? Would that just be wild? And this is a huge deflation for Mr. Jeff. But that's what they did. They swapped these two picks. Fan fiction aside, there's not a ton to take away from this trade, Brandon.
I also like to think that Sam asked Jeff to keep it under wraps, not to let it leak at all. He didn't want to lose any leverage.
He's building it up along the way. Jeff, would it be crazy? And I mean, before I say this, like, let's keep this all in house. Don't go tell your players. I'm not telling my players or coach. Like, let's keep it all between us. And Jeff is just salivating. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's in the water at the Red River between these two GMs? And then it's just this. It's just this.
And I feel bad for that. To say. I feel bad for that 2030 second rounder had just picked out a home in Charlotte.
He moved to the Queen City to play AAU basketball, and now look what's happened now, Brandon. But in all actuality, this is a trade that I believe, and this is just theorizing, that the Thunder are using to elongate their asset window. So coming into Monday, the Thunder had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 second round picks in 2029. 6 second round picks in 2029. They only had 1, 2, 3 second round picks in 2030. And 2032 picks are ineligible to be traded until the summertime. And so obviously 6 picks is absurd. Like, you're not going to be able to draft 6 players. And with each year that passes by, clearly the picks become elevated to where, like, who would have thought we'd already be in 2025 by now, right? Like, whenever those trades were made way back then, we were thinking, we're never going to get to 2025. And so you make this move, and on the surface level, it's just like, why is Sam Presti getting another second round pick? Why does the bank still keep your money? Because that's how the banks never run out of money. Because then they can loan this pick out, and then the rent comes due. Like, eventually 2030 is going to get here, and these picks become due. And so I'm just saying, I would expect the Thunder at some point, I'm not saying this week, but in the summertime for sure, to keep making trades like this, to where when you kick this can down the road to 2030, and in the summertime, you can start to deal in 2032 picks. Well, guess what? This summer, there's going to be plenty of asset-strapped teams that need a quick fix. Oh, we need your picks this year or next year or quicker, to where we can make our trade offer better or make our team better or whatever. And the Thunder will be able to loan them, for lack of a, for a money comparison, loan them that money, just like the bank loans you money. And you think to yourself, well, this loan's not due until, this mortgage won't be paid off until whenever. And eventually you're going to have to pay it off, though. Like, eventually you're going to have to pay it in to the bank. And so this is an ability for the Thunder to never run out of that money, because draft picks are the currency of the NBA in general. They're especially the currency of the NBA for a small market team who practically has to ignore free agency unless the sun and the moon align just right every 15 years, whenever they went and got Hartenstein this year in free agency. But besides him, there's been no free agent additions of note for the Thunder. So, like, these draft picks mean everything, both in terms of player acquisition in more ways than one, because one, they need to draft players under this new CBA that are under cost control of the contracts. That's the premium spot in the NBA right now, is cost control of the contract, because this team will get very expensive. They're comfortable with it getting very expensive. But to do that, you need good players on rookie scale deals. Then also, this team needs a form of assets to go improve their team, because it's not going to come via money in free agency. It can come in draft picks, and it can come down the line like this. So I just think that it's a great trade on the surface, because you've pushed the can down the road some more. But ultimately doesn't truly matter. I don't think that you should read too much into, like, oh, what does he think about the Nuggets? Because wouldn't the Suns be worse in 2029? I just think it's more about the year itself versus the team it's associated with that pick. It just so happens that these are two teams that do have questions about their futures. But I think that they would have made the trade probably no matter whose name is attached to it. But maybe that's different. But I do believe that the asset window being elongated by this trade is the crux of why they made this move. And we'll see how they end up using this stuff. But now you're setting yourself up to where if they play their cards right, and all these trades that you poo-poo, going back to the JaMychal Green trade, like that summer, all these trades that you cast off are like, say, why bother? Like, why do this? Well, if they play their cards right from doing this and from pushing these picks further and further down, they can make it to where they never have a draft in which they have less than 2 picks in. And those picks can be used on draft night to get a player, on draft night to trade for somebody, and especially the trade deadline. If you're sitting there thinking about why on earth are they getting all these second round picks, keep a log of all the fun little veterans who improve your team on the margins that go on Thursday for second round picks, that go entirely for second round picks. And that's your answer. You're muted, Brandon. You're muted.
My bad. I coughed. I muted myself when I coughed. Manners. No, it's just smart business. You accumulate these second round picks and you can use them if you just want to, say, for instance, buy another first round pick, like the 26th pick in the 2024 draft to draft Dylan Jones. Just throw 5 second round picks at somebody. So you have all these second rounders in the future. Or like you said, find a cheap role player down the road that you can use these second round picks on. And why not? It's just smart business. Why not move one, shift one a year later when you don't have as many second round picks, when you already have 6 in one draft, kick the can down the road. And I think it also speaks to the relationships that Sam Presti has built over the years. Like, obviously there's a relationship there with Jeff Patterson in Charlotte. They've done business before. I mean, I think Charlotte's happy with Trey Mann and Vasilija Micic, and, Sam calls and says, hey, I want to kick a pick down the road. What do you think? Why not? Let's do this. You've built that relationship. Yeah. So it's just good business. It doesn't seem like much, but it's just smart.
Yeah. And it doesn't seem like much, but if you're someone who's like legitimately annoyed by it, I think you should really take a step back and you're just mad to be mad. It's similar to Flagler. Like, this team is so good. They only have 9 losses that Flagler becomes a big deal. And this team is so good. They have 9 losses that you can't pick apart anything else, but it's like, well, there goes that Presti again, getting another second round pick. And I would just ask you, okay, would you ever sign up to not get paid dividends? Like, if I told you that, hey, I'm going to give you $10 million, but you've got to take deferred payments like Shohei Ohtani, would you ever get to a point where you're in that deferment where you're like, you know what? I've had enough. The deferred payments have been nice, but I think I'm good here. No, you want all the money you can get, and you want all the dividends you can get. And this is what this is. This is just it's like if I trade Brandon $1 today and I told him that I'm going to get you 5 in 2030, and I did that for 6 days in a row. Why wouldn't he just let that add up? Because at the end of the day, he's only given me $6 if I do it 6 days in a row, and he's netted back all that money in the future. This is what Sam Presti is doing, and it's good business. You don't have to praise it. You don't have to act like it's reinventing the wheel, but it is good business that they should do. And if you don't care, then just ignore it. It's that simple. Coming up, should the Thunder continue making trades? And what is Brandon's reaction to the biggest story of the weekend, which we've covered on 3 different pods on this feed already? But first, Brandon, we got to talk about our good friends over at FanDuel, folks. FanDuel is incredible. Go to FanDuel.com right now, because guess what? Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities. There's no better way to make every play more exciting than with the FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel thrilled from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what's happening on the field, and it's the app that's super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place $5 bets and potentially win $200 in bonus bets on the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake, which new customers can do by downloading the app, heading to FanDuel.com to get started. Whenever you bet that $5 bet, if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets at FanDuel.com. FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 59. And Brandon, your Cowboys, once again, not in the big game, but you know who is in the big game, Brandon? My Kansas City Chiefs, who are 1.5-point favorites. So basically a pick 'em against the Philadelphia Eagles. Where does your bet lie?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I mean, as you said, I'm a Cowboys fan. And even though this was like a nightmare season for every Cowboys fan, your Chiefs are playing the Eagles. I have to go for the Chiefs.
Chief Pete,
Absolutely.
baby. Chief Pete. Let's see if me and Brandon are right on the big game on Sunday. We're back on Lockdown Thunder. Brandon Rahbar from dailythunder.com, OKC Dream Team 1077 The Franchise, at Brandon Rahbar on Twitter. Brandon, let me ask you this first about the Thunder, because we have talked a lot about Luka on this pod, and I want to get your thoughts on it still. Was today the only trade the Thunder will make this week?
No.
Ooh, you got a crystal ball over there?
Okay, now I should put a little disclaimer that I don't necessarily think they make any big swings, any big trades, any, Luka, De'Aaron Fox, 80 type trades. But I think at the very least, we'll probably see another one of these draft pick kick the can down the road things, because they have possibly 3 first-round picks in the 2025 draft. 2 or 3. It's going to be one of the 2. And they are low on roster spots. They have a lot of guaranteed contracts going into next season. So I would imagine at the very least, I would hedge a bet that the Thunder will at least make a draft pick trade, if not a player trade.
So I would agree with you. I think that when you factor in the odds of, one, they could just go make a trade that we're not expecting. Like we both think that Cam Johnson would be a good fit for this team. And we've talked, both of us have talked, we talked on the show a lot about if they should or shouldn't do it. And you and I both lean cautiously on like staying pat, but they could go get Cam Johnson. They also could make another deal similar to this one as the deadline creeps in. And let's not forget that, like, if Jimmy Butler gets traded, which has been on the track to, if these whispers of Kevin Durant grows, if more dominoes start to fall, like a lot of these trades under the new CBA are going to need 3rd and 4th and 5th teams to get done, to where you can sneak in and just say, hey, okay, well, we'll along with this trade, we're going to lob a 2nd-round pick in 2030 for your 2nd-round pick in 2028 or whatever the case is going to be on that front. So when you factor in that as a trade, it increases the likelihood that they do something before you even mention what you astutely noted of like, as fun as this is, the trade deadline and these transactional windows that open up, like, you do also think about the future, and you do also think about what the next transactional window brings. And the next transactional window is the offseason. And no matter if you win the title or if you lose whenever in the playoffs, you're still going to have this situation where you have a lot of picks, you don't have a ton of roster spots. And like, if you trade whoever at the bottom of the roster for another bottom of the roster guy, I don't think that it'll like influence your chemistry too much. I don't think that it will move the needle too much. It could just make it easier to make a decision in the summertime. But ultimately, I don't think that they're going to make a player trade. I'm going to lean with they might do another trade like this where it's just picks and they help another team out because maybe they jump into a trade, for example, of Miami or whoever wants to send something to Miami for Jimmy Butler. Hey, we don't have it. Like, we don't have the cash right now. And it goes back to the loan analogy of like, hey, we don't have the picks right now, but guess what? The Thunder do. They'll give you a pick, and then we'll give them a pick in like 2032, 2031. And it kind of, you can get in on that kind of action. So because there's so many avenues to do something before Thursday, I'll say yes, because it just would be the favorite right now, because the only avenue to do nothing is to do nothing. The avenue to make a trade is like 5 different branches off of one tree. So you got to lean that they're going to do something else before Thursday's up. It could be as big as Cam Johnson. It could be as small as the trade we just got done covering. And we'll just see where the truth lies in all of that.
And I do agree that maybe like a 3-team trade, 4-team trade, where a team going for a Jimmy Butler or a Kevin Durant or whoever needs a pick. We saw this last year. The Thunder got involved in the Daniel Gafford trade. They give up the least favorable of, 2024 picks because they had so many. that turns into a 2028 unprotected swap, which, by the way, after this Luka Doncic trade, when Kyrie Irving's going to be 35 and AD is going to be 36, or vice versa, I can't remember, in 2028, that pick swap is looking pretty juicy right now. So when you can do a least favorable type trade, when you have 2 or 3 picks and you're still ensuring that you get the one with the most upside, but then trading the worst one for more upside down the road, that's just smart business. And we're seeing already last year that looks like it's going to pay off. And we saw it the year before also, the Thunder trade away at least favorable, I think 2 years ago in 2023, and that turned into like a 2027 Denver pick, like top 5 protected. But that pick was like the 29th or 30th pick. I can't remember what it was, really, really low. So these upside trades are already working out, it looks like, for the Thunder. So it makes sense to keep doing it.
Yeah, and if these things really do happen, like Jimmy gets traded, Kevin Durant gets traded, whatever, they're going to need the more picks. And the Thunder, if the season ended today and all the protections were factored into today's standings, the Thunder would have 4 draft picks in June. And while I really love this draft class, the Thunder don't necessarily have 4 roster spots to give these 4 draft picks. So it would just make sense to do what you did to Gafford, of like, we'll make this trade go through for you. You'll hit us on the back end. And now that back end looks incredible. Pause. But Brandon, when you look at the NBA trade deadline from a national perspective and you see Luka Doncic get moved to the Los Angeles Lakers, what was your reaction to that? And what was your reaction as an NBA fan? What was your reaction as it pertains to the Thunder and their possible matchup with Dallas?
So my first reaction was just like everybody else. This is not an original thought. I was like, this can't be real. Was Shams hacked, or am I getting like Centelled? Like, is there like a Shams Centel out there that's getting me and it's going around? But obviously I got the notification, and so I went to the notification. I was like, no, that's actually from Shams. My reaction as an NBA fan was like, of course the Lakers. Of course the Lakers backed into another superstar. Like, it doesn't matter like what decisions the front office makes. Like, their future looked pretty bleak. I think if you ask any Lakers fan, they will tell you like aging LeBron, aging AD, no real assets for the future, no real young stars to build around assets at all. Like, what's going to happen? And they get gifted Luka on a silver platter. So that was my reaction as an NBA fan. My reaction as a Thunder reporter, and as far as like matchups go, the Mavs are still going to be really, really good. AD is still a top 10 player right now. And, I still think that it's a team that can make some noise in the playoffs, but I do think their upside is more limited now because Luka, as great as AD is, if Luka comes back healthy, he's a whole different animal. He's a top 4 or 5 player in the league when healthy, and he changes the entire look of that Dallas team that was built around him. So also look, AD is great. He's a great 2-way player. But they had size. They had 2 centers in Lively and Gafford, so it's a little redundant. Now you need another creator, another shot maker, another playmaker, another guy that can go out and get a bucket. So I think ultimately they're still a really good team, but I think this makes them less dangerous and limits their upside in the playoffs. So I think fully healthy, I favored the Thunder over a fully healthy Mavs anyways, although, it could be close. And that was, I thought, the 2 best teams in the West. Now I favor the Thunder, a fully healthy Thunder, even more, even though they're still dangerous. And now I don't know who the second best team in the West is, quite honestly. Like, is it Denver? Is it still the Mavs? Is it the Lakers? If they go out and get a center, could it be the Grizzlies or the Rockets or the Wolves? I don't know. The West is wide open, I think, after OKC.
It is wide open. And I'm just curious your thoughts on this. Does that wide openness, because we did a trade deadline preview a week ago, and we were both in team stay put. Like, this team is so good. They're doing all this without their second best player. Just stay put. This team is good enough to win a title. They have the pieces to win the title. Yes, you're banking on like J-Dub and Kaysen and Joe and Lou being better at hitting shots on the big stage. but they deserve that opportunity to do that in their second ever playoff run. They deserve the chance to show that they've improved, because it's unfair to say that they can't improve or can't get better from their first ever showing. Now, with these moves and with the West, the Thunder were already the favorite, but being even more so seen as the favorite out West, does that influence you at all? Of like the Thunder should go make a trade, or does it entrench you more in, hey, just keep doing what you're doing, man? You're obviously doing something great because you were the favorite before, you're the favorite now. Just keep riding it out.
I see both sides of it, because obviously if there's no clear number 2 now and you're that much more the clear number 1, it makes sense to just stay put, especially with Chet coming back and Caruso coming back and seeing this team eventually fully healthy. But on the flip side, I can see like, well, but why not stack the odds even that much more and become even better and even more the clear favorite? So I see both sides of it. I still ultimately lean towards, staying pat, because I think this is the best team in the West, fully healthy. Chet is going to come back. Caruso is going to come back. We haven't seen the team at full strength. And the roster has been constructed in such a way that this is sustainable. You get a lot of bites at the apple as far as contention goes. And contracts like Aaron Wiggins are incredibly valuable. It's a descending contract. And how nice will a contract like that and Isaiah Joe and these guys be down the road when you're still competing for titles, in 2030? So I see both sides of it, but I cautiously lean towards staying pat. Maybe going out and getting like an emergency third big or an emergency, bench playmaker creator, something like that, a small move like that, just in case.
Yeah, I could see a small move like that taking place, just for the insurance policy of it, because while they all are projecting to come back, they're all on track to come back. We saw Chet dunking at shoot around on Saturday. That's not to say that they're never going to get hurt again and never going to get hurt again this season even. So they give yourself that insurance policy. I could see that happening. I think that the Thunder are going to stand pat, and I think that you should look at that and in full support, because of all the logical reasons that we've laid out and that the team would lay out themselves and everything if they went that direction. But Brandon, I think that the hardest decisions to make are the ones where I see logic on both sides. I see the logic in like, hey, go get Cam Johnson. Like what it will cost you versus what it will do for you. The cost benefit of like, you're the favorite now. If you go get Cam Johnson, you should waltz to the NBA Finals.
Right.
Like that versus, hey, stand pat because you still should win the West. I can totally see both sides of that coin, and I think that both sides have valid arguments. I think that both this is the rare discussion where there's not like a black and white yes or no. I think that those are the toughest decisions to make, and that's why Sam Presti gets paid a ton of money to do this. But if I told you that you were Sam Presti for Thursday, would you still have that same restraint of staying pat, or would you go get Cam Johnson?
Man, it's tough, Rylan. It's tough. I would probably ultimately look. Aaron Wiggins, when given the minutes, he obviously can go out and get a bucket. He can go out and score. I think he's a very valuable role player on this team, and I think the same of Isaiah Joe and the depth, and then what you'd have to give up, and then the contract and future contracts and construction of this team. I'd probably make a small fringes move, like an emergency big or an emergency playmaker.
Yeah. So if I was Sam, it's similar to you, but if I was Sam Presti, I wouldn't be able to fully just stand pat. To me, it's Cam Johnson or bust. Like if the package of like Wiggins as the centerpiece can't go get Cam Johnson, they want more, or you get outbidded. This is the thing about the Thunder. I really fear the reaction from people who aren't like knowledgeable and tapped in are going to look at, if Cam gets traded, well, why couldn't the Thunder match that? Well, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Like, you should have a set price. Hey, if it's just Wiggins and Dylan Jones, sorry guys, but like, this is a huge upgrade for this team. I would do that. But if they start asking for like 3, 4, 5 first round picks, then all of a sudden, hey, I had my price. It's like buying a used car. I had my price. You don't want to give it to me, that's fine. It's done. And if someone else wants to go pay you that price, good on them. If you can get that price for a 97 Corolla with 100,000 miles on it, go for it, man. But it's not going to be from me. So if I couldn't get Cam Johnson and I was Sam Presti, I'd just not do anything. And so that's where I would be. I would really love to go get Cam Johnson if I was Sam Presti. and I wouldn't do anything else. I don't care about entertaining any other offers. I don't care about anyone else that's out there. It's just Cam Johnson. Yes, if they say yes to it, I'm doing it. I'm doing it immediately. I'm rushing that in quicker than the Lakers rushed in the Luka trade, if they'll give the Thunder Cam Johnson. But if they don't, if they say no, or they think that they have a better offer, I'm walking away. I'm not going to be foolish and like give more than I should for a Cam Johnson trade. So we'll see what the Thunder end up doing. Brandon, we might have an emergency pod if they went and got Cam Johnson.
That'd be fun. I'd be down for an emergency Cam Johnson pod. All that said, ultimately, Cam Johnson is an elite shooter. He's an elite movement shooter. He's 6'8", by the way, and he's got size. He can get a bucket. He would make a lot of sense. So yeah, count me in for an emergency pod. But of course, if they ask for like 5 first, I would just send them a screenshot of that Luka trade.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Say,
he's no Luka, buddy. He's no Luka. Brandon, the good news for the Thunder listeners out there, the Thunder fan listeners out there, we don't run the team. Because if we did, Darius Baisley starting power forward today, buddy. So luckily for you guys, I do not run this roster. We'll see what they end up doing though. On Thursday, we'll be back.
I'm that Uncle Phil meme right now. We wouldn't be putting Baisley out there starting power forward.
And I'd have to really do some convincing to get you to put Baisley out there as a starting power forward. But I think I could talk you into it. But this was a fun show, especially for a not so fun game. Brandon, thank you for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow for a mailbag podcast. So if you have questions, leave them below on YouTube. We'll put it out on social media for you to send in questions as well. Until next time, be good and be good to one another.